Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Goodbye Bullshit, Hello Happiness, Conscious Parenting Edition. Happy New Year, everybody. And for the new year, I've got a full house here for you guys. We have Elle, Hilary, Angelique, everybody's here. Thank you, ladies, for coming tonight and sharing your wisdom and experience with your kids and life in general. Thank you all. So tonight's topic is going to be drug and alcohol use among, kids. These days, I feel like more of the parents that come to me, even some parents bring their kids for me to treat. And that seems to be a big issue in general with everyone. I don't know if the kids have more access to it or it's just easier to get to. They're stressed more. So that's why I picked this topic to see what everyone has to say, what everybody has experienced in their lives. I can go first and just talk about my own personal experience when I was growing up. Um, Drugs weren't a thing for us growing up in Iran. And I think even when I came here, I wasn't around much of any of that. I knew about drugs. I knew my grandfather smoked opium, one of my grandfathers when we visited him. But that was pretty much it. But alcohol was generally what everybody was around. And, you know, it was funny. Again, it wasn't one of those things that people didn't say, oh, thou shalt not drink. So it was there. We knew it was like, yeah, we're not supposed to. We're kids. At some point, we can drink. And I actually started pretty early. I started drinking when I was around 15 years old. So I started pretty young. But again, funny enough for me, it seemed like I knew my limit and I knew, like, you know, how to handle it. I don't know how, but I did. And I've had open communication with Ilya. I mean, I'm really grateful. It seems nowadays, I don't know how it was for your kids. That's another thing I like for you guys to say, because again, we have different age kids. But I think early on in elementary school, they started talking about drugs to the kids. And I know in fifth grade was the first time. And then throughout middle school and now high school. And they've talked about everything. I mean, like heroin and opioids and marijuana, everything, cigarettes, vape. He had more information than me, it seemed. So I was really grateful for that. But also, I know talking to him, even when he was in middle school, but even more so now, there are lots of kids that are smoking vape. And it's not, I found out, I'm an old mom, I guess, that the vape is actually marijuana in it. It's not the chemical vape. Is have a new name. He told me it's like when you say it, this is not the regular vape; it's the marijuana vape. And drinking, I know now at their parties. Um, Again, I had no clue, but homecoming, I think that's one of the biggest drinking events. And but at all their parties, it seems like they have drugs and alcohol, and it's there. And I was very surprised. I mean, I had talked to him in middle school about these things. My to go was that if you're gonna, I know you're gonna drink. I know you want to try some stuff. Just be open and honest with me. Be safe about it. So we went over all that safety stuff. I can talk about that a little bit later. And my thing was that if you're going to try anything, try with me first, present, so you know how to handle it, its effects on you, you know what it's going to do to you. But I know, again, thankfully, so far, he's not that interested in it. but I know for a lot of parents, it's a big issue that their kids are smoking and drinking. And, I know parents that luckily, again, they've called their parents to come and get them because they were too drunk at a party to drive. Again, that's always really great to hear. But I also know, like, they know the dangers of alcohol poisoning. So, all of that. So, wanted to get your opinion, your experience when you guys were growing up, for your kids around you, anything you want to share that will help other parents or shed some light into it. Who wants to go first? All right, Hillary, I'm calling on you. Let's go. Usually I start top of the screen with Elle. This time I'm going down. I'm putting Hillary on spot.
So, just as a reminder for everybody, my son is a pretty new 17. We live in Colorado, which um, is a very marijuana friendly state.
Mm.
Um, and other things have come onto the scene. I'm not saying with my son, but other things have come onto the scene in terms of um, psilocybin. I wonder, or am I saying that right? Mushrooms.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Big word for the end of the day. Um, and so just the conversation has really come up around the accessibility of these things. And I know we've talked about this in past episodes where I've tried to teach from fear. Don't do this, and this is what could happen. And I'm just going to stuff all this fear in you. And I think Angelique, you even talked about just this calm way that you parent. And I wish I had known that years ago. So my fear stuffing is not the way to go, even with the drugs and alcohol piece of it, with regards to him in particular. Now, my friends have really struggled. I know this is a big thing. We have struggles in other areas. We don't have struggles in this area. So right now I feel fortunate that we're just working on one struggle. um, but that being said, I think it's something to take very seriously because I know how it affects the brain. And as they're developing, at the same point, there's that where do we step back? What's that line? And I know we've said this before: the health and safety, health and safety, health and safety. So I'm going to be all up in your grill about something if it's health and safety, but you can't be with them 24/7. So then there's an element of trust. So the last thing I will say, I don't know that I'm actually answering your question, but the last thing I will say is Nicholas's dad has never smoked a cigarette, or done drugs. So every time it comes up, Nicholas, his dad's like, "Well, just be like me," and then he's always like, "But what about mom?" um, and growing up, drinking was more a thing growing up in my world. To answer that question too. I'm gonna zip it now.
No, no. You mentioned friends around you, other parents are struggling. So can you tell me like some of the struggles they're having, like with their kids? Because again, for my clients, I know, you mentioned Colorado, legal, it's out there, people can get to it. I know, the three of us are in the DC metro area, Maryland. It's legal, but with prescription, not easily accessible, but they are getting it from their parents' stashes, all of it, the mushrooms, the marijuana, all of it, it's their parents that, not that the parents are giving them, but the kids are getting it from the parents' stash. And I know a lot of the parents, as you mentioned, fear is the fear that's illegal and that legally the kid is going to get into trouble and the parents are going to get into trouble perhaps if the kid is smoking. So just any of that with your the people around you that you've seen, since Colorado's like open state.
Yeah, so there's that fear of the health and safety that I mentioned before, and the legality piece of it are very much, working in tandem. So it compounds it because it's not knowing, okay, if my child gets pulled over and is vaping or is smoking, that's going to come back on me and what that means. And so through lots of research, at least in Colorado, my understanding is yes, that you can be impacted by that. And the kids need to understand what their actions mean at home, not only, from a legal standpoint, from insurance, from financial, the whole rest of it. So that is a serious thing. And I wish I could say there was an easy way to address it. But I don't think there is. I mean, I think it's the law.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's that one piece of it. I think right now, though, at least in Colorado, because it is so accessible, there's less of an emphasis on policing that piece of it, maybe a little bit.
Hmm.
So that might be part of it here. Um, I just go back to stuff we've said on this call, open dialogue. And if you're not having the open dialogue, then that and you want to, that means you got to get into that somehow, some way, shape, or form, whatever that means to you and whatever's comfortable. And it's not sometimes comfortable. I think you guys all know that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Angelique, what has your experience been for yourself growing up,
Yeah,
for your daughter, her friends?
totally, totally. So when I was growing up, it was it was marijuana and alcohol, and that's where it stopped, really. Growing up, early '90s, before that was the Reagan era, when say no to drugs, that whole campaign, and what they were portraying in the media, it was, you don't want to be a crackhead. That's crazy. Like it was like, no, we'll stop there, and that's it, because anything else, it's crazy. Fast forward, what, 30 years? Oh my gosh. I have a daughter that, again, is 13 years old in middle school. And so listening to the music and just the evolution of drugs, how it went from, uh, uh, um, she said, kids were at her previous school, not at her new school, but at her previous school, they were caught vaping in the bathroom, or she said, hey, somebody OD'd. I'm like, wait, what? in the school. So it's not at home. They're doing this at school. I'm like,
Mhm.
but why? And they were like, oh, to feel better. They were stressed out. And also it's glamorized a little bit more. Again, back 30 years ago, it was, hey, there's a hard stop. And that hard stop is like marijuana. Now it's glamorized. Marijuana is laced with, or enhanced, I should say, or it comes in flavors, or it's gummies, or it's pills, and there's all of this assortment. And it's like a buffet of what do you want, what do you need. And I think that's what our generation needs to understand and be aware of is, hey, it's being promoted in different ways. And it's not the crazy crackhead anymore. It's, hey, my celebrity's doing this to make them
Sure.
feel better and give them, creative juices and flows. So, we do have her father and I, we have very open conversations with drugs and saying like, hey, it's not what it seems. It is enhanced with chemicals. It's not weed or marijuana from the earth. They put more into it, just like our food sources. They put more into it, and it's not what it used to be. Although it wasn't good then, but but I digress. It's not the same, and again, it's glamorized, and it's the vaping, and it's like you don't carry that smell anymore. Like remember when somebody's been
Yes.
smoking, and like it doesn't carry that smell anymore. It's more discreet, like a pill. You pop it, you go, and it's way more discreet. So I feel like although we may not see it because it's more discreet and the kids may have way more access than we are led to believe.
Yep. Yep. That's it. Well, you made a good point about the celebrities that are, it's very glamorized, and I'm happy you brought that up. And that, they made it kid friendly sort of with the gummies and the flavors and everything.
Yeah.
And I remember that was one of the things with Ilya, it's like, what the smell? It's so fruity. I'm like,
Me
yeah,
too.
but it's not, you want something fruity smell, I'll give you something else. This is not the fruity smell, but it is. They make it attractive, and I'm glad you brought that point up. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll just
Elle,
add to
go
that,
ahead.
sorry, really quickly on the gummy front. That's the thing where folks get into trouble, right? Because it's such a small dose that you need.
Yep.
And kids do not understand that because they'll eat
Mhm.
a package of candy. So it's definitely it's an issue.
It
I
is. It
I feel
is.
you.
It's not a process of like of you know rolling weed into a paper or this. It's not a process anymore. It's you throw it up in the air like popcorn and catch it in the mouth, and then you go on about the business. I mean, it's that fast and it's that quick. And again, Hillary, it's enhanced. It's not what it was then, and it's enhanced. And again, they don't know their limits. Like Atousa,
Yep.
you said, like, hey, I knew my limit and I stopped. Well, when it's that small and it packs a big punch for such a small person in a developing mind, that it hits them quick and hard
Yep.
and they don't
Yep.
know what to do.
Yep.
Right.
I agree. And I also loved, we're gonna do that with our son. We're gonna get drunk with him. Well, we're not gonna get drunk. We're gonna have him get drunk. I don't know. Maybe I will. But
A
it made me
kickback.
think, yeah, exactly. It made me think too, would I do that with gummies? No, like I don't want to do it with that. So anyway,
Oh.
yeah. Elle, it's all you.
Well, one thing I wanted to also mention that I think contributes to this legalized marijuana scenario is CBD. Because CBD is legal and it's been set apart from the marijuana itself, I think unless a person wants to be educated on these substances, the CBD is also making the marijuana seem more okay. Well, if that part of the marijuana is okay, then marijuana mustn't be so, like, it's just, to me, I think it's muddying the education of it. And so that has been one of my concerns, is just people are now, I think, sometimes feeling like they don't have to do their due diligence because they're trusting government or the CBD industry or, somebody else to tell them what is okay and what is not, versus really figuring out what's best for them, their child. Because even with something being legalized, that doesn't mean it's a great choice for everyone. It's not even a necessary choice for everyone.
I'm
So,
glad you brought that up, actually. So for THC free gummies, pills, orals, I had to look into it a lot because of Ilya's anxiety was so high. And I didn't want to put him on medication because I knew the side effect of the other medication. And he hates taking pills. I mean, even for like Tylenol, Motrin, he's like, no, I don't want to do it. So I was trying to figure out, so what can I do to help him? And I looked into it. I talked to his doctor. I mean, I had my sister. I said, can you do your own research? I'll do my own research, companies, everything. And to be honest, we did try it for a while for him. And it worked to with some degree for a little while for what we needed. Um, and I had to talk to him about it. Hey, this is not marijuana. This doesn't, marijuana can be addictive. Marijuana does work on that THC part of it. So I kept saying, this does not have THC. The THC part has this. So I had to even tell him that, hey, what I'm giving you is the lowest dosage and it doesn't have that stuff. And let's try it out. And I've done the research, I've talked to your doctors. We're trying this out to see if we can help you in a way. So I'm glad that you brought that up. But you have also different, you're in a different situation now that your son is actually older and he's out of the house. So how is that something that you worry about in college? Because again, mine is not in college, but I know my friends that had, have or had college age kids. That was another big issue, and I know people that have lost their kids because of alcohol poisoning in college age kids.
And I could tell you from what my son has shared with me, like, not to be, crude, but he kind of makes fun of the kids in college that are getting like alcohol poisoning. Because to him, it's like, so we're supposed to be these bright people who got accepted into college, but we have no better sense than that, than to like drink ourselves into the ER. So he kind of has, I think his attitude is because it was an ongoing conversation all of his childhood. In all of my extended family, we had what I consider to be a significant presence of addiction, but everybody was very high functioning, and it was often things like people who drank to the point of being like intoxicated, but everybody was going to work, everybody's getting accolades. So it's a lot of this functional sort of addictive behavior, which caused me to define addiction as anything that is modulating you and keeping you from like your highest self. So I don't use the litmus test of how much money you can make and do you show up to work every day. I'm looking at a person's presence in their own life, and is it the life that they choose? And so by that definition, from a young age for me and through my adulthood, I was surrounded by that. So when Zane was younger, we started this dialogue early. And we started in the context of not substances, but video games, television, phones. I was just kind of casually showing him throughout his childhood all these things that can be addictive. And I remember even pointing out to him things that look like parents that might be addicted to their children or their role as parent, or maybe people that could potentially be addicted to their spiritual experience or going to church. I was showing him like workaholics. I was trying to show him a different context so we could get outside of the debates about the substances. And so then from that place, I think he kind of just lost interest because he was associating like not just alcohol and drugs, but all of these potential addictions as something that could interfere with him having the life he wanted. At that level of association, then it was just always a bigger conversation. And so then my other kind of, I guess, theory was I'm also going to take the panache out of it by letting him be exposed with me so that it's not so sexy and under the table if he tries to sneak and do it with his friends. It's going to be like, my mom doesn't care about that. And so like for special occasions, probably around, I want to say 16, he could have a glass of wine. Or on like New Year's Eve, he could have one glass of champagne. And he actually told me, this has been in the last year, that it worked, and he was so mad at me. Like he had those experiences where his friends were like thinking they were really doing something rebellious, and he was like, you totally like killed the thunder. Like there was nothing in it for him. So I don't know if that would work with every child, by the way, because I do understand some children might receive that as consent. But, that's what worked with this particular child. And then he gets to college and he starts having some experiences. I wasn't actually that worried about him, to be honest, because the conversation had been, if curiosity gets the better of you, if you make a mistake, it is not going to be mature to try to cover your tracks. What is mature is correcting the problem. And that probably means you're going to be out of your league and you need to come to your mother. So it was second semester of his freshman year. I get a call from him. He had gotten drunk, and it was because of his first experience. He hated it. He was miserable. And he actually was like, can I come home tomorrow? He actually came home the first time he got drunk. And I mean, I think he was heavily intoxicated, like I'm assuming he had to be. But it was over for him. He was just kind of like, this is just not my thing. He was like, I don't even get it. He was like, that was miserable. The hangover was bad. And then he was deeply concerned about how he had behaved with his friends. So the potential damage to his friendships was really important to him. So I just kind of sat back and was like, natural consequences, do your job. there wasn't a lot for me to, he had the capacity to assess that situation. Drugs don't really seem to be something that he's particularly interested in, but I would never step so far as to say, I don't think he's ever going to experiment. What I do feel comfortable saying is I have presented myself as a support system to help him navigate. We've had the big conversations. Now he's in the world making choices and learning, and I'm just trying to be open enough that he can come to me. And now that you're my conversation with him has been, now that you're an adult, this is not about you being in trouble. This is not even about what I think about you. It is about you making the best choices so you can get where you want to go in life. And I'll partner with you. And I just kind of leave it there.
Nice.
Would you raise my son? I'm going to send him to you.
I like that, Hilary. Ship him over. A lot of things I want to bring out and then get everybody's point of view. First of all, I think we're all saying the same thing, as that conversation, open, honest conversation with the kids, and letting them know what the impacts are, and making them feel safe and secure to come and talk to you with their question. And if they're going to have these experiences, or if they're curious, that to come talk to you, have that dialogue so they can come and talk to you. And, even if they want to experience something, to experience with you and not with their friends, and, in a sort of uncontrolled environment. But one of the things that you mentioned that I know I wanted to bring up earlier as well is addiction. And that was one of the things that I communicated with Ilya as well, about that you have a tendency to have an addictive personality. And so you need to pay attention and see your choices. Again, bring it in always to, you're responsible for your life. You're responsible for the choices that you make. Make the choices based on what you want to experience. If this is is this choice going to give you the experience you want to have or not? But that was one of the things. And you're right, it was addiction to, I told him about video games and other things. And I said, this can develop into addictions to other things that you may want to experience. So you got to be a little bit more careful to say, hey, if I want to experience drug and I have addictive personality, now I need to be extra careful than anybody else, because if I try this, I might get addicted to it. Or if you want to try alcohol, same thing. And I don't know, somewhere along the way, I don't know what happened, that has shifted. I think because I kept saying, talking about control and responsibility and, take charge. It's shifted. He doesn't have that personality, but that was one of my biggest concerns because of his behavior. So I like to hear everybody else's point of view. And one other thing that I wanted to also say, I think we brought out mushrooms, and again, how do we parent if the parents at home, they're microdosing for their own purpose, they're experiencing stress, anxiety, depression, whatever it is, and they're using microdosing, marijuana, alcohol, whatever. And so can you tell your kids, hey, don't do it, I'm doing it, but you don't do it? And if the kids are suffering from the same thing, so how do you communicate those things? Like to hear your opinions on that. So
I want to jump in on this one. I was not a person who used marijuana in college or in my younger years. I came to cannabis when I was using it medicinally and microdosing. And it was actually kind of a last resort sort of thing for me when kind of Western medicine had run out. Actually ended up saving my life, and I was resistant to it. So that was kind of an odd experience. But the conversation has always been, you can modulate your mind and your body and your spirit in a number of ways, even with food. And like my son and I in particular, we often talk about how sugar can really affect a person's behavior, their memory. Like, it can really mess you up. They talk about sugar being as addictive as like cocaine. But I mean, there's a lot of things out there that can modulate you besides drugs. So again, it's the bigger conversation for us about holistically things that alter you. You can alter yourself in romantic relationships by being codependent and attaching to people and being one of those people who takes hits of love or interaction with other people, and that can make you behave differently. I think I feel very strongly about this actually. As a parent, I think sometimes trying to have a moral conversation with our children is like shooting yourself in the foot, because our children have the right to grow up and not share our beliefs. And so I feel like the higher kind of way to, I guess, support them and guide them is to give them a broad conversation for their consideration. So in the context of whether it's mushrooms, if it was cocaine, if it's cannabis, if it's alcohol, I really try to give Zane some perspective about, this is what I know about all of these things. And then let him know that I trust him to make his way and making these decisions. And even if he doesn't agree with me, I feel like I've done my due diligence in giving him the data to consider it, even if we don't end up in the same space in our beliefs.
Yeah, perfect. I like that. Yeah, I have not microdosed. I've tried mushroom just very recently, just because, you know, everybody said it has this experience. I said, okay, let me try and see. I think Elle, actually, I told you about my experience. It was a very interesting one. It's like, this is not doing what everybody thinks is gonna do. So it didn't actually work for me. Marijuana, again, was one of those things. Few years back, I don't know, probably about 7 years ago, people said, try it, try it. I said, okay, I don't think it's gonna work, and it didn't work for me. So I don't know. And that's exactly what you said. Ilya asked me, have you done this, have you done that? And I've been very open and honest with him about what I've tried, what I haven't, and what was my experience. And like you said, I like that you brought out, reminding him my experience is very different than his experience. um, I'm not the type of person that has an addictive personality. So I can easily try something and walk away from it. But he has to see that for himself. And again, if if he wants to try something, experience something, and first of all, come up and tell me, why is it that you want to experience, not because everybody's doing it and I want to do it, I want to try it, it's the coolest thing to do, all these people. So don't give me that reason. If you want to actually try it for a specific reason, let's talk about it and let's come up with a plan for it. But I'm happy that you said that. That's good. You guys, Hilary, Angelique, what are your thoughts about addiction? And also, if you're using it as a parent, and your kids want to use it, yes, no, maybe, how would you communicate with them? Pick one. Angelique, go.
I picked Angelique.
I'm going to take myself off mute, right? So, two parts to that is, to your point, it really depends on the child. If you notice that they do have that codependent, that latch on to something, that addictive personality, then you have to parent a little bit differently. I noticed that my father had a very addictive personality and would go from one to the next. I saw that. So if it wasn't, heads down in one thing, he was doing something else and take it to the next level. I don't see that much with my daughter. And which brings me to the next point, and I think Atousa, you brought that up, is the curiosity piece to it. If it's not the addictive, it's, well, why is it so cool? Why are people leaning on this? Why are they relying on this to be happy or to feel better? Or, it's that curiosity factor. So that's how I parent my daughter towards that aspect of it. And it's, Elle, you said it, I do it, I think Hillary, everyone, we take the taboo out of it.
Uh-oh, I think we lost Angelique. I think she lost power.
I think you're right.
All right.
Well, was that a perfect ending? Take the
Exactly.
taboo out of it.
Exactly. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Hilary, what are your thoughts on addiction, and if a parent is doing it and a child wants to try it, or even if a child actually has anxiety or depression and they want to use it the same way as the parent is using it? What are your thoughts?
So I was actually going to go to the latter because for once, I think, and again, I don't know all the kids in all the world, but it feels like
Hold
once.
on, I'm going to pause. I apologize. Let me see if I can bring Angelique back.
Yep.
All right. Angelique. Yep. There we go. All right. Go ahead. Sorry, Hilary.
We were just saying how brilliant the taboo ending was, Angelique.
Oh, she's on mute. Angelique, you're on mute. It's okay.
I'm
Oh, there you
sorry.
go.
There was something that happened with my laptop, so I had to switch to my phone. I apologize for that. And Hillary, I'm so sorry that if I cut your point off. Okay, but just to wrap up, I was agreeing with everyone is taking the taboo out of out of it. And again, to having those open conversations and asking them, well, why are you curious about it? What makes it so appealing to you? And yeah, I just wanted to end with that.
Perfect. Perfect.
I think it's a great ending. So I think there's a curiosity factor, and then I think at a certain age that another factor starts to come in. I don't know when that is. It's different for everybody, I'm sure. And that is the anxiety, the depression, the component of I just want my mind to stop. I want my body to be calm. So then then we get into that addictive potential space, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm reading this book right now. The little book of Big Change by Dr. Amy Johnson. And I just read this, and so I'm going to share it because it really spoke to me, and I'm going to share it with my son tonight. I've been working so hard to get to calm I've tried microdosing. I've tried marijuana, the whole thing, or meditation, lots of exercise. I've tried to get to that calm space. But if you flip the perspective, and if you think about us as the sky is up there always blue. The weather comes in, right? And the weather is all this stuff in our life. And Atousa, I know you've talked about this, and I think it's something about the sky weather thing really resonated for me. And so I try to bring that calm in with sometimes the substances or the working too much or whatever. And our kids do that in their own ways. But if we tell them, well, you are calm. You don't have to go find it. You are by your innate being. And all that other stuff is going to momentarily distract you and get you further away from that calmness. I'm not really entirely sure what I'm even saying anymore, but go sky.
But that's perfect, actually. I was gonna say that I want to even end on that. It's perfect. It's perfect that just to wrap it up from what you were saying is that adults, kids, all of us, everybody's trying to achieve that calmness. Why are they microdosing? Why are they addicted? As all of you have mentioned, is because of that calm. They feel that calm is not inside of them, and they're trying to constantly reach something outside that's going to give them that. And all along, it's inside of you. As we've mentioned in all the other shows, everything else, our work together, go inside and you're going to find those things. And the way to see it, as you were saying, is that, a lot of the spiritual conversations, a lot of the gurus mention it in different ways. She was saying it that you're the sky and the weather can come and change, but you're still the sky. The sky doesn't change. The sky is out there. Another one is that they say, you know, you're the ocean. The ocean may have waves. The ocean may be, um, you know, smooth and no waves, but still the ocean doesn't change. The ocean is always going to be the ocean. So in different ways, all of them are saying the same thing, that inside of you, you can achieve that calm. Thoughts may come and go, emotions come and go, but if you center yourself inside of you, you can always catch your calm and be that calm that you want to be. Still, it's difficult because, I mean, like you can tell the kids that, um, you know, again, I'm starting to get teenagers as clients to work with them. And, you know, if the adults, if the parents are not there, you know, how can you tell your kid to get there? They're like, they're looking at you and saying, well, you know, excuse my language, do you have your shit together? You don't. And you're telling me to get my shit together. Why don't you be the sky? Show me what that sky looks like. And then come and tell me about it. So, but we're all work in progress, always, 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 always. So, any last thoughts, comments about, you know, drug and alcohol use, addiction, any last minute advice anybody wants to give? I think we all said, you know, talk to your kids, listen to them, open dialogue, take the taboo out of it, and, you know, see what what's the reason behind them wanting to do it. And every kid is different. See what works or does not work with your own child. But any other thing that I missed or anything you guys want to add?
Send your kid to Elle.
Yeah, there you go. Elle's boarding school.
They would probably just come back and be like, "Oh, she's crazy. Don't make me go back." That would be my magic. Actually, the only thing I wanted to throw in is what I think I say pretty much every time we talk. I think it's so important to know your child. Mm-hmm. Being on the side of having other parent friends who also have adult children, when it has gone south, the consistent error that I have observed is the parent was making choices about how to handle drugs and alcohol with their children based upon what their friends were saying, or what the other school moms and dads were saying, or so they were responding to society's opinions, and they forgot to focus in on, okay, what's the goal for my child, and what would be the best way to get them to that goal. And so this conformity, the fear of deviating, you know, from what would other people say, every time it's gone. And I do have friends, by the way, whose children are about my son's age, and their children are like in rehab. And a lot of times it was because they took their eyes off of their child and they made the voice of society louder than kind of their own inner wisdom, which I know each of those parents had. So I feel like, you know your child and let the other noise go quiet when it comes to something that's so critically important.
Yes, great, great advice. I'm glad you said that. Yes, thank you, thank you. Angelique, anything last minute for you to add?
No, I think we all hit on the same points, and again, we've said this a couple times in different ways. You're right. We have to know our child and parent to our child, make them feel seen and heard. Sometimes their happiness is a validation from their parents, and maybe they're seeking, comfort and the happiness, and that it, through other means, whether it's drugs or alcohol. And as parents, just making them feel seen and heard and listened to, and and present. Um, I mean, it's not going to take away the need or their curiosity for the drug, but at least maybe one deterrent and one way to kind of pump the brakes on them going down that path.
Nice, nice. All right. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, everybody that are joining us, watching this later. Thank you. Wishing you guys a happy new year. subscribe, like, share, and if there are subjects that you guys want us to talk about, please either put it in the comments or text me, let me know. Thank you, everybody. Bye.